Megan, we need you to step away from that desk.
Excuse me, I'm in the middle of
We know about the cash.
By the time this footage ends, Megan Caserta will have lost her job, her freedom, and her reputation. She earned every single bit of it.
So, we know about every bag.
The cash is literally right here. What are you even
We've been
talking
watching you
about?
for weeks, Megan. Hands where I can see them.
Watching me do my job? You have the wrong person.
The deposit bag was not going to save her. Within 72 hours, Lake Park police detectives had seized her company laptop, her personal cell phone, every shift close-out report she had signed off on over the previous 6 weeks, and a canvas bank bag containing $812 in cash that did not appear on any register log. 47 shifts, $27,663 in documented losses. A 6-week window where every single cash shortage at Target store number 2411 in Lake Park, Florida, traced back to the same name on the schedule. Hers. And the corporate loss prevention team had been watching for longer than she ever imagined. Quick question before we continue. How much money could someone steal from the place where you work before anyone noticed? Think about that number. Leave it in the comments. And if you are not subscribed yet, join the team. Megan Caserta was born in West Palm Beach, Florida, in the fall of 1988. Her mother worked 2 jobs for most of Megan's childhood, days at a Medicaid processing office and evenings cashiering at a Winn-Dixie on Congress Avenue. Her father was in and out of the picture, and mostly out by the time Megan was 11. The 3 of them, Megan, her younger sister Elena, and her mother, lived in a 2-bedroom rental on the north side of West Palm, a neighborhood of cracked sidewalks and dead lawns and quiet people just trying to get to Friday. She was a quiet kid. Teachers at Roosevelt Middle School described her as polite, responsible, and a hard worker who stays on task. Her mother used to joke that she never had to ask Megan twice to do anything, because Megan would have already done it. At 17, she took her first real job, running the register at a chain diner off I-95. She worked 40 hours a week through her senior year of high school and handed most of every paycheck to her mother without being asked. She graduated from Palm Beach Lakes High School in the spring of 2006. She enrolled at Palm Beach State College that fall. She wanted to be an accountant. She liked numbers. She liked the way columns balanced when everything was correct. She took introductory bookkeeping and intermediate accounting. She earned a B+ in her first cash handling course and kept the graded exam taped to the inside of her closet door for almost 2 years. She never finished the degree. Her mother got sick the summer before her 4th semester, and the Winn-Dixie shifts dried up one at a time. Megan dropped her morning classes, picked up a second shift at a Marshall's distribution center in Riviera Beach, and by the following December, she had stopped enrolling altogether. She worked. That was what she did. She worked cash registers, and then stockroom, and then inventory control. She worked overnights when her sister's school schedule needed her daytime hours. She worked holidays when the holiday pay mattered. By the time she was 24, she had a 1-bedroom apartment in Riviera Beach, a used Honda Civic she had paid off herself, and a reputation among every manager she had ever worked for as the person you called when the regular closeout supervisor called out sick. She applied to Target in the spring of 2014. She had answered an online posting for a seasonal overnight stocker position at the Lake Park store on North Lake Boulevard. The application process took 3 weeks. She was 25 years old. On her first day of orientation, she showed up 40 minutes early in a red polo shirt she had ironed the night before. Her early performance reviews at Target describe a specific kind of employee. Detail-oriented, extremely reliable, shows strong aptitude for cash handling and inventory reconciliation, willing to take on additional responsibility during high-volume periods. Her first-year review, signed by an assistant store manager named Colleen Davidson, noted that Megan consistently closes the store ahead of schedule with 0 variance in the nightly cash reconciliation. 0 variance. That was the phrase that mattered. In a retail environment where the average nightly register drawer at a store the size of Lake Park number 2411 processes between $60,000 and $90,000 in transactions, a closing team member who could reconcile a full set of drawers without a single dollar of discrepancy was considered gold. Megan was that team member. For 3.5 years, she did not have a single shortage longer than a few hours of investigation attached to her name. The store itself sat on the corner of North Lake Boulevard and Park Avenue in Lake Park, a town of just under 9,000 residents wedged between Riviera Beach and North Palm Beach. The building was a standard Target general merchandise format, approximately 130,000 square feet of selling floor, 32 active checkout lanes at peak, and a 24-hour pharmacy counter that drew the overnight traffic that mattered. The store did roughly $65 million a year in sales. Everything at a Target store of that size runs on a closed-loop cash handling system. At the end of every shift, every cashier pulls their drawer, counts it in front of a manager, and turns in a sealed canvas bank bag containing the cash portion of their register. Those bags go into the cash office, which is a small locked room at the back of the store, accessible only by a coded key fob. Inside the cash office, the closing manager on duty reconciles every bag against the point-of-sale data for that shift, records any variance in the company system, and locks the reconciled cash in a time-delayed drop safe until an armored car pickup the following morning. The system is designed around a single assumption. The assumption is that the closing manager is not stealing. Every safeguard in the process, the two-person count at the register, the camera coverage in the cash office, the variance reporting tool that flags shortages above a set threshold, every one of those safeguards points outward at the cashiers and the customers and the overnight stockers. None of them point at the person holding the key fob. Megan was promoted to overnight shift lead in 2016. She was promoted to assistant overnight manager in 2018. And in the spring of 2022, after the departure of the previous overnight manager to a store in Jupiter, she was promoted to full overnight manager with sole closing authority on the nights she worked. She was 33 years old. Her base salary was $54,000 a year. Her cash office key fob was programmed with her employee identification number and her fingerprint. The store had 3 overnight closing managers on a rotating schedule. Megan worked Wednesday through Saturday nights. Her schedule was the one nobody else wanted. The overnight shift at a Target in Lake Park runs from 10 in the evening until the store closes at 11, at which point a skeleton crew of stockers and the closing manager remain on site until the morning opening team arrives at 5. Those hours, between 11 at night and 5 in the morning, were quiet hours. The cameras in the cash office recorded continuously, but nobody reviewed the footage unless something triggered a review. And in a store with zero variance month after month, nothing ever triggered a review. She was, by every public measure, one of the most trusted employees at that store. The first discrepancy appeared on a Wednesday night in early September of 2025. It was small, $340 short on a single register drawer, noted by Megan herself in the variance report, attributed to a probable miscount by the cashier. The store manager, a woman named Veronica Hartshorn, reviewed the report, noted it, and signed off. Miscounts happened. They were not common at that store, but they were not unheard of either. The second discrepancy appeared 4 nights later. $270 short, again on a Wednesday shift, again reconciled by Megan, again attributed to cashier error. A pattern of 2 shortages in 1 week was worth watching. It was not yet worth investigating. The third discrepancy appeared the following Saturday. $410. Different register, different cashier, same closing manager. This time, Veronica wrote a note to loss prevention. Between September 8th and October 24th of 2025, Target Corporate Loss Prevention identified cash shortages across the Lake Park store totaling $27,663. Every single one of those shortages had occurred on a night Megan Caserta was the closing manager on duty. Not a single shortage of any amount had occurred on any of the 8 nights during that same window when either of the other 2 overnight managers was closing. Loss Prevention opened a formal investigation on October 1st. The operation had, by that point, already been running for 23 days. The method, when investigators eventually reconstructed it, was simple. Megan's job as closing manager required her to walk every register drawer back to the cash office at end of shift, count each bag against the register's point-of-sale data, record any variance in the company system, and then deposit the reconciled bags into the drop safe. That process took place alone, with only the overhead camera recording. The camera recorded the entrance, the drop safe, and the reconciliation desk. It did not record the underside of the desk. It did not record the inside of the canvas bank bags themselves. And it did not record what Megan was doing with her hands when her body was angled away from the lens. On any given night, she would pull a bag, count it in front of the camera, note the total, and then, during the process of sealing the bag for the drop safe, remove a portion of the cash. $200 one night, $300 another, $500 on the nights when the registers had run heavy. She would tuck the cash into the waistband of her khakis or into a fanny pack she had started wearing under her shirt in the final 2 weeks of the scheme. Then she would record the variance as a cashier miscount. The variance was blamed every single time on the cashier. The escalation pattern was almost textbook. The first week of the scheme, the individual shortages averaged around $240. By week 3, they were averaging closer to $600. By the final week, 3 of the 4 nightly shortages exceeded $700. The money did not sit idle. Investigators would eventually pull her bank statements, her credit card records, and the paperwork on a 3-year-old Nissan Altima she had purchased with an $8,000 cash down payment on September 27th, 19 days after the first shortage appeared on her shift. Her living expenses in September and October exceeded her net monthly income by just over $4,000. She was not saving the cash. She was spending it. And the people closest to her had started to notice. Her sister Elena would later tell detectives that Megan had paid for their mother's prescription co-pays in cash 3 times that September, something she had never done before. A co-worker named Jerome Whitlow told investigators that Megan had shown up to a shift in late September wearing a new pair of headphones he recognized from a recent release, and had mentioned casually that she had been treating herself lately. Stories like this do not get the coverage they deserve. If you want to see more accountability content, hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell. We cover cases that mainstream media ignores every single week. The catalyst was a marked currency integrity test. On the evening of October 23, 2025, Target's regional loss prevention manager, a man named Harold Durant, deployed what the company internally called a cash flow audit seed. The method was simple. Cash of mixed denomination with serial numbers recorded in advance would be inserted into a register on a suspect shift, tracked through the closing bag, and compared against the manager's reconciliation report. Any discrepancy between the marked cash inserted and the marked cash deposited would leave a paper trail with serial numbers attached. Durant had $600 in marked 20s and 50s inserted into register number 14 on Megan's shift that Wednesday night. The bills had been photographed and cataloged through the cashier's opening count. The closing bag for register number 14 that night came out $320 short. The variance report Megan submitted attributed the shortage to a cashier miscount by a part-time team member named Diana Grivis. Megan signed off at 1:47 in the morning. She locked the bag in the drop safe. She clocked out at 1:59. She drove home to her apartment in West Palm Beach and went to sleep. The marked bills were not in the drop safe the following morning. Harold Durant had the cash office footage from that night reviewed frame by frame. 3 Target corporate security analysts watched 8 hours of video at the company's regional office in Jupiter. They slowed the tape. They enhanced it. They watched Megan's hands during the count of the register 14 bag. At the 14-minute mark, her back angled toward the camera and her right hand dropping below the desk line, they saw her wrist rotate in a specific way. 3 times. Not unmistakable on any single frame. But across 8 hours of footage from multiple nights, the same wrist motion appeared in the reconciliation of every bag that was later flagged short. Durant contacted Lake Park Police that Friday morning. The department assigned the case to a detective named George Ramirez, a 12-year veteran of the Patrol Division who had moved to property crimes 18 months earlier. Ramirez met with Target Corporate Security Friday afternoon. He reviewed the video. He reviewed the marked currency log. He reviewed the shift-by-shift variance data. He had enough for an arrest. The plan was simple. They would let Megan work her Tuesday shift. They would have the cash office wired for direct audio and video capture. They would have 2 officers staged in the back corridor. And they would make the arrest in the cash office itself during her end-of-shift reconciliation, with the marked bills expected to be physically on her person. Tuesday, October the 28th, 2025. Megan arrived at the Lake Park Target for her shift at 9:47 in the evening, parked in her usual spot in the far corner of the employee lot, and walked through the back entrance at 9:51. She waved at a stalker named Brandon near the receiving dock. She stopped at the break room vending machine and bought a bottled water. She put her purse in her locker. She clocked in at 9:58. The store closed at 11. By 11:30, the final customer had left the building. By 11:45, the floor team had pulled their drawers. By midnight, the skeleton crew of overnight stalkers was at work on the aisle resets, and Megan had begun the closeout reconciliation in the cash office alone. At 12:22 in the morning, Detective Ramirez was watching her on a live monitor from a van parked on the south side of the Target parking lot. The monitor showed Megan seated at the reconciliation desk inside the cash office, 3 canvas bank bags beside her, her uniform polo tucked in, her key fob clipped to her hip. Ramirez watched her open the first bag. Count it. Record the variance in the system. Seal it. Drop it. At 12:34, Ramirez watched her open the bag from register number 9. That was the bag containing the marked bills for that night. Ramirez counted 17 marked bills inserted. He watched Megan count 16. He watched her right hand drop below the desk line. He watched the wrist rotate. Ramirez gave the signal at 12:37. 2 uniformed Lake Park police officers entered the back corridor from the receiving dock. Ramirez exited the surveillance van with a second plainclothes detective, a man named Orlando Brissett, and entered the store through the main customer entrance using a key provided by the store manager. By 12:41, they were walking down the back corridor toward the cash office door. The door was unlocked. Ramirez did not knock. He walked through the open doorway with Brissett a step behind her. Megan was seated at the reconciliation desk with the register 9 bag open on the desk in front of her. Her back was angled toward the door. She was counting a stack of 20s. She did not see the detectives enter. Ramirez spoke first. Ramirez, Megan, we need you to step away from that desk. Megan's hand stopped mid-count over the stack. She turned in the chair slowly, one shoulder at a time, until she was facing the 2 detectives standing in the doorway of the cash office she had been running alone for 11 years. Megan, excuse me, who are you? I'm in the middle of close. Ramirez, we know about the cash. We know about every bag. Megan, standing up now, pushing the chair back, her hands going out to her sides. The cash is literally right here. What are you even talking about? Ramirez, taking a step into the cash office, Brissett circling to the subject's left. We've been watching you for weeks, Megan. Hands where I can see them. Megan, watching me do my job. That's the deposit. You have the wrong person. Ramirez did not argue with her. He instructed Megan to place her hands on the desk. He instructed her to remain facing forward. Brissett pulled a pair of nitrile gloves from his back pocket and began the pat-down. He found the fanny pack under her uniform polo within 10 seconds. Inside the fanny pack, folded into a small rectangular bundle held together by a rubber band, were $320 in cash. 3 of those bills were marked 20s with serial numbers cataloged by Target Corporate Security 7 days earlier. Megan stopped talking when he found the pack. She stood at the desk with her hands flat on the wood surface and her eyes fixed on the blank wall in front of her. Ramirez recited the Miranda warning. Megan did not respond. She did not request an attorney out loud at that moment. She simply went silent. She was walked out of the Target store at 12:53 in the morning. The overnight stock team watched her pass through the back corridor in handcuffs. She did not look at any of them. Brandon, the stalker she had waved to 3 hours earlier, would later tell a reporter for the Palm Beach Post that he had not recognized her face as she walked past him. He said it did not look like the same person. She was booked at the Palm Beach County Jail at 1:41 in the morning on October 29, 2025. The initial charges were grand theft in the 3rd degree and scheme to defraud. Her bond was set at $25,000. She posted it through a local bondsman on the afternoon of October 30th. The formal indictment came down from a Palm Beach County grand jury on November 21st. Megan Caserta was charged with 22 counts of grand theft in the 3rd degree, 1 count of scheme to defraud over $20,000, and 1 count of organized scheme to defraud. The combined maximum exposure under Florida state sentencing guidelines was 37 years in state prison. Her public defender, an attorney named Clifton Houghton, filed a motion to suppress the cash office surveillance footage in December, arguing that the placement of the video capture equipment had exceeded the scope of Target's internal security authority. The motion was denied on January 9, 2026, by Circuit Judge Patricia Wethersfield of the 15th Judicial Circuit. A plea offer was extended the following week. On February 3, 2026, Megan Caserta pleaded no contest to 1 count of scheme to defraud over $20,000 and 7 consolidated counts of grand theft in the 3rd degree. Restitution was set at $27,663, payable to Target Corporation, plus $7,400 in state court fees. Judge Wethersfield delivered the sentencing on March 18, 2026. Before announcing the sentence, she spoke directly to the defendant. Ms. Caserta, you were given a position of trust that hundreds of your co-workers would have been grateful for. You exploited that position methodically for personal gain over a period of 47 shifts that this court can document, and likely more that we cannot. You did not steal in a moment of desperation. You stole on a schedule. You stole by the numbers, and you let the cashiers who trusted you take the blame for every one of those shortages. That is not theft. That is a betrayal of the people who stood next to you at the end of every shift. The sentence was 42 months in Florida Department of Corrections State Prison, followed by 3 years of probation, full restitution, and a permanent ban on retail management or cash handling employment within the state of Florida for the duration of her supervised release. She was processed into Homestead Correctional Institution, a medium-security women's facility in Miami-Dade County, on March 25, 2026. Her earliest release date, with good time credit applied, is November of 2028. She will be 39 years old when she walks out. The Lake Park Target store conducted a full turnover of its overnight closing managers in the spring of 2026. The cash office was upgraded with a second camera covering the reconciliation desk from below, and the variance reporting threshold was lowered from $200 to $50. Target Corporate rolled out the same upgraded camera package to 47 additional stores across the Southeast region by the end of that summer. They called it internally the Lake Park Protocol. Diana Grievous, the part-time cashier whose name appeared on the variance reports for 6 of the final week's shortages, was cleared of all suspicion in December of 2025. She had been placed on unpaid leave for 23 days during the investigation. She filed a civil claim against Target and accepted a settlement in January of 2026. She no longer works in retail. Megan Caserta's mother attended every court appearance. She sat in the third row of the gallery on the day of the sentencing, in a dark blue cardigan and cream blouse, her hands folded in her lap. When the bailiff led Megan out of the courtroom after the judgment was delivered, Megan turned her head once toward the gallery. Her mother did not look up. This case was cold, but the case on the right-hand side takes cold to a level I have never seen before. Click it now.